Hey, it's Professor Chan, and today I will tell you the history of how Britain colonized Hong Kong. And once you understand what happened, you will realize, wow, that's what's happening to our world right now. Now, it all started in the late 1600s when the British discovered tea, and they absolutely loved it. We don't know why. Maybe the Chinese tea was really that good, or maybe the British food was really that bad, Tea is just leaves and hot water. And yet the British acted like that's the best thing they've put in their mouth. Anyways, by 1700s, they were obsessed and they started importing tons of tea from China, like literally thousands of tons per year. So between 1700 and 1830s, China was like, we give you tea, you give us silver, okay? And Britain was like, okay. And that's an important concept because silver was the reserved currency back then, kind of like the US dollar is the reserved currency of the world today. And when you trade, you want to trade in a currency that everyone trusts and can hold its value, because that's the real power. But after a century of obsessing over tea and buying it from China, Britain started to experience a silver deficit. Because when you import more than you export, when you spend more than you earn, you're going to experience economic imbalance. Kind of similar to what's happening to America today. We have a budget deficit. Same idea. When we max out our credit card on social programs and military defense, but we barely get paid, it's going to go down. So what did Britain do to solve the silver deficit? Well, they tried to sell white people things to China. So for example, they tried to sell Chinese wool in exchange for silver. But China was like, no thanks, it's pretty warm and humid here, so we don't want to dress like depressed sheep. And Britain was like, what about metal forks? And China was like, bro, we chopsticks. So the British goods had no significant demand in China. They wanted to sell things, but they were not very successful. At least not in a way that could cover the budget deficit that they were experiencing. So what was the final solution? Well, when in doubt, sell drugs. Yeah, Britain started smuggling opium illegally into China and got all the Chinese addicted. And guess what? Addiction is the best loyalty program. So sales went through the roof and the British were happy again. But China was not happy because opium made Chinese people unproductive, lazy, and borderline So China wanted Britain to stop. They were like, that's enough. Opium is illegal in China. But the British was like, it's just a pharmaceutical drug, mate. Why so mad, bro? It's just Tylenol. And they basically continued smuggling opium into China. So the Chinese government was like, 我操你妈逼, which means that's enough. And in 1839, some Chinese officials confiscated and burned over 1,000 tons of opium as a way to tell the British to off. So what did Britain do? Did they A, stop smuggling drugs and apologized? B, stopped smuggling drugs but no apologies? C, apologized but kept smuggling drugs? Or D, got super pissed off and then later sent a full fleet of warships to bombard Chinese coastal cities and started the first Opium War? And the answer is D, they bombed China. Because one thing we know about history is that you don't mess with white people's EBITDA. So during the first Opium War, yes, there's a second one, don't get too excited. But during the first Opium War, Britain had industrial era weapons. But China was still in pre-industry defense. Britain had steam-powered iron warships. China was still using sail-powered ships that were made of wood. Britain had advanced firearms and artillery. China had Kung Fu. So Britain dominated the war and eventually won. And China was forced to sign the Treaty of Nanking, in which China had to pay Britain a huge fine in silver. Also, 5 ports were opened for the British to trade. And Britain also took Hong Kong as a souvenir. And that's the same domination playbook used throughout history. Even today, first you offer to trade. And if the offer was accepted, then you just trade. If not, then you bully. And if they still refuse to trade, then fight. Because if you win, you can just take. You don't even have to worry about trade anymore. Now, what countries are doing this these days? You tell me. That's the homework assignment. Leave your answer in the comment section below, and if you have any questions, drop that there as well. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to OChan University to learn more about how to dominate the world. Until next time, peace.